You're listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrikin and Jason Carey, your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storylines shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason.
Fellas, snowpocalypse has come and gone, and we have somehow all survived. So excited to be here for another wonderful episode of the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Jason, going to start with you. How have you been, sir?
Doing pretty well. But, I mean, apparently there's a nor'easter on the way, so is it just Snowpocalypse Part 2? Sometimes the sequel can be better, right? And does that mean by better, like, worse for us, or just it's not as bad?
If you can spell nor'easter and get spell check to get that correct, I'll give you $5 right here, right now. Because no matter how many times I enter it, the common language, the old English, the Lord's tongue is saying that's not a real word.
I would say NOR apostrophe and then, Easter.
You nailed it.
Or...
Someone get this guy a cookie right now. But hey, we don't have cookies, but we do have free tacos all month of February at California Taco. As an RFC fan, I don't know how they're going to police that. I think if that gets out to the masses of like if someone puts that in the Rhode Island subreddit, I think California Taco is going to be in the red for the year, not because it's the month of love. I think they're going to be in some serious debt crisis. You can't be giving out that many free tacos. So I'll be really interested to see how that works. But we have so much more to go through. And while I want to escape this weather and get down to warmer climates, I'd love to be down with the team as they head out to train in preseason down in Florida. We can't do that, and we've got tons to cover. But I got to give the floor to a returning guest, someone who we have not seen, Jason, and he always comes into the studio. Nevertheless, haven't seen this guy in a fortnight, longer than that.
Been a minute.
Matt, first off, welcome to the show. You need to catch us up on so much. The last time I think you were in, you weren't the host or the producer of not only your show, The Playbook on 990 WBOB, but like every other show on the radio station. It's so good to have you back here as both a partner, as a friend. Welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jason. Last time I was here, I was just doing my own little show, own little thing. And now I think at that point we only had Wednesdays on our station on 990 WBOB. And now we have, 4 days a week. It's crazy. We got Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, and nothing but jam-packed shows all day. Was there last night till like 11 o'clock. Nothing but beautiful time at the studios.
Jason, you're going to have to go to the studio, and I'm expecting you to show up for a big event that's coming up for 990. It's one of the reasons that we actually have Matt on beyond his love and appreciation for the Amber and Blue. So, Matt, I want to kind of give the floor to start things off and talk about the big event that's coming up here for 990 WBOB on this upcoming weekend, or I guess Friday in about a week and a half.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're about 8 days away at this point. On February 6th, the Friday before the Super Bowl, we'll be having F-Bomb Friday. I know you're probably thinking that, and you're probably thinking it's some very juvenile, inappropriate event, and, well, you are right. At 990 WBOB, we also operate our own charity called Crush Cancer, where all proceeds will be going to Dana-Farber and the Jimmy Fund. And so next week, this event is going to run from 6 to 10, Friday night, February 6th. We got 3 teams all competing to see who can raise the most money for this cause, and we'll all be saying the word that rhymes with luck, or truck, or tuck. It will be all in the efforts to raise money for this event. It'll be $5 an F-bomb, and anyone that wants to call in, you can tell us exactly how you feel about whatever it is you want to talk about, and you two, or at least whatever combination and some effort, will be a part of this event, which we're looking forward to. So for your fans, if they want to tell you guys how they really feel about you, maybe not exactly your fans, but maybe, people that just at least listen to the show and want to tell you how they feel, it's a perfect platform for them to really get into the needs of it.
The nitty gritty.
We will absolutely be blasting all of the important socials, the phone number that's going to come up as a result of this, of course. Mm-hmm. And then there's a donation link. So if you can't make the time, we're going to heavily participate both with our wallets and the ability to use the F word itself. Fun fact, we have only had the F word said one time on this show, and it was a complete accident, and I didn't bleep it out because it was too good to not. And it was one Maxi Rodriguez when we had him on the show in his interview last year. He was so comfortable, guys, that he was like, I can say whatever I need to say and really get the feelings out there. And now we've seen where that's left him as he's gone back to Detroit. By the way, that picture of Maxi Rodriguez, someone said that he's been eating too many Trader Joe's microwave meals, and it's just the salt and the sodium and the lack of sleep. I don't know what's going on. Maxi, I've never seen him look that rough. So either he's getting a royal reception at Detroit for abandoning them.
He absorbed too much sodium in his time in Rhode Island.
I mean, we are a salty state. Let's get honest, right? So, but we've got a ton to cover tonight. This is going to be a great show. I'm super excited. We do intend to run long because we have some extra special things, not only with Matt here, but some other stuff that's going to be a little bit later in the show. We're going to cut it down for the podcast. So if you're listening to this on audio only, we're going to remind you later, but some of the content will be intentionally cut. One, so that we can drive you back to the YouTube show where we try to do a lot of work in producing this.
Synergy.
Matt's in the third chair at the studio tonight, and the camera's crooked and it's driving me crazy. But hey, we work and we improve. Jason, get us going on this news because there is a lot to cover today.
Yeah, the Open Cup. So U.S. Soccer announced on Tuesday the draw for the first round of the 2026 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup with Rhode Island FC is going to host CD Filens at Centerville Bank Stadium on Tuesday, March 17th. Isn't that a holiday? I don't know about you guys, but soccer on a drinking holiday looks like I need to be prepared to call out the following Wednesday. See, that's how you guys do it. You don't call out the day of, it's the day after. I mean, I'm going to be there.
Por qué no los dos? Why not call out the day of for day drinking and then call out the day after for recovery?
I mean, that's fair.
People can be sick 2 days in a row, guys. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Multiple times. Take advantage of it. It's there.
So Matt,
available.
I've seen you multiple times at the stadium, and we try to use the word adult beverage on the show, but definitely seen you enjoying yourself by a very liberal application of the word enjoying. Does this game suddenly get elevated in the list of games for the season that you want to go and attend because of the prestigiousness that it falls on a very important Irish holiday?
Well, it's definitely on the list. And for one, it's also a Tuesday. You know, I do shows on Mondays, Wednesdays. Most of my week's busy. Tuesday is my free day, and I think it's not going to be free now that I'm going to have that marked on the calendar. So if you see me that day, no, you don't. And it's going to be a wonderful game that I'm sure you'll recap me on the next day.
We will fill in all the blanks. But speaking of filling in, we have a lot of new listeners from our partnership with 990 WBOB. It's a new season, new fans. By the way, we have fans right now. Andy King, although I don't know if he's a fan per se. He's a partner in crime on a fellow podcast in Orange County in California. But we've got greetings from Greece as well, from Spiros. So we're international here. So let's educate people on what exactly is going on with this Open Cup, because there are some changes from year over year that we need to address.
Yeah, there has been a lot of changes over the last few years. When we look at 2026 here, the bottom half of the U.S. L Championship is not going to the tournament here.
Sorry, Kaler.
Yeah, sorry, Kaler. And then the bottom half of MLS teams not competing in the Leagues Cup will be joining the round of 32. So it's this kind of weird formula. If you go onto the U.S. Soccer website, they kind of break it all down there for you if you really want to get
Pepe
to
Silva,
the nitty gritty of it. RFC is going to enter the tournament alongside 15 other championship clubs this year in round one, a departure from last year's setup where higher seeded championships entered the round in round three, which should allow for more opportunities to see some kind of David Goliath cup sets here. I pulled out a few notable matchups. We mentioned the one here with Rhode Island, but also Vermont Green FC is going up against Portland Hearts of Pine. That should be a fun match. Other notable, Hartford Athletic is playing FC Motown. And then just for kind of a fun maybe rematch here, the Burrito Boys, El Farolito, are playing against Sacramento Republic FC, who knocked them out last year after their kind of Cinderella run here. They're always a fun team to watch, so I would definitely asterisk that on your calendar.
Jason, my heart belongs to the amber and blue, but my stomach belongs to the Burrito Boys. I cannot tell you how much I need a good breakfast burrito from California back in my life. The people here just don't know, and they're never going to know until we start that business. So those of you that I've drunkenly talked to about at many of the watch parties, I'm still ready to start that business anytime possible. Matt, I'm going to start with the question of, obviously you're going to be at the Rhode Island FC game, but is there anyone of this matchup that you say is like, man, I really wish I could go to that as well, or I would be interested, I'd be soccer curious in seeing how some of these other matchups line up?
Well, I mean, looking through some of the games, I definitely would put the Vermont Green Portland Hearts of Pine game on the calendar. Maybe that's just me being a New England fanboy. But anything to do with New England soccer is always on my list because New England's just the best place to live. Nothing about New England's bad. And that goes for soccer. It goes for college soccer, too. Go Bulldogs and go Vermont. Catamounts. Vermont's a great soccer place, by the way. In case we're not aware of that. Vermont Green's
champions.
Great. Yeah. They've won the national title a couple years ago. It's just New England soccer is on the rise.
Yeah. And, when we look at these breakouts of matches, one of the most important things to note here is RIFC is one of the few higher tiered clubs. It's in this case, I think it's appropriate to say it compared to our competition, but in other rounds, it's very close. It's USLC to USL1, but they will be hosting here in this first round, as we've been talking about. And the interesting thing here is looked into the rules of the league, or I guess the U.S. Soccer Federation, and they mentioned that the way the hosting duties were going to work was that home determination was based on if both clubs entered a bid to host. And from what I'm hearing is that CD Filands did not have the ability to host. It's expensive to host. Even if you're bringing it into like a regional high school field or place in the park, like you still have to spend money. Sometimes that also then means that certain facilities have to be provided, certain security has to be provided. You have to think about fan attendance. And that's just not something that was in their budget. I don't know if they did apply and then abdicated to Rhode Island FC, but my gut tells me from what I'm hearing around the league is that this was just Rhode Island FC put their hat in the ring, and that's why they're now here hosting. So kind of an advantage for us here in this first round. I will be curious, though, one, if CD Filands had hosted, we could have been the first New England team to play in the greater Boston area before the New England Revolution. So that could have been a fun thing to be able to claim. Speaking of the Revs, by the way, you mentioned this kind of earlier in the format. Revs still enter in round 3 or the round of 32, the third stage. But there's going to be at least one game gap between how we saw them last time around. Whereas, in the past, it was one game we advanced, then we played the Revs. This time around, we'll have to win first round, then we're going to have to play through the second round, which, we'll talk about who we may see here in a second. And then we could see the Revs. So that should be interesting. They're here because they didn't have a great season last year. Kind of the opposite for how MLS, you perform poorly, you're in the Open Cup. Whereas in Championship, you perform well and you get rewarded with the Open Cup. So really interesting there. But Jason, break us down the technical details, because there's also some events and some calendars around how that works.
Yeah. And so when RAFC, with all due respect to CD Filands, kind of advance out of round 1, they're mostly going to take on another regional opponent. So at that point, when we go to round 2, kind of towards April, we're looking at hosting potentially Vermont, Portland, Hartford, should they advance from their matches. From there, that could set, if we can, get past that round, that could see a potential rematch of last year's Cup exit against one Revs. So we've got to make it a few rounds if we kind of want to see a rematch of that last year's Cup. But like when we look at these options, what do you think is most exciting here? Revs rematch? I mean, first time playing against Vermont Green, or do we want Hartford?
I mean,
do we want that? Do we want that jelly?
I guess the Revs, no matter what, you got to get to that game, and then you got to see how far along you can advance past that. So Matt, as the guest, I'm gonna hand it over to you. You get to choose after this round. You get to choose. It's between the Hearts of Pine, assuming it's Vermont Green, or it's Hartford Athletic for the 11th time we'll see them this season. Who would you like to go through to then advance on to the Revolution?
Look, and for one, it's a unique matchup. I'd like to see Vermont. And maybe part of that's because I want the easier path, but you know what? It works. And if you want to make excuses, you can still make your way along the path and win. Look, I don't, everyone wants a more challenging path, so they don't call it a Mickey Mouse sort of run. I'm fine with a Mickey Mouse run. Okay, you win a Mickey Mouse run, you still end up winning the title. So I'm fine if they play teams that are in, USL2 or wherever it is and continue to advance along. And I think, another New England matchup, there'll be plenty to boast about it. There'll still be butts and seats. I think it will be an entertaining matchup. And then you go on and go play the Revs, and however that ends up going.
Jason, do you subscribe to the idea that Vermont Green will be the easy team out of that? I mean, they did not, I believe they didn't get to play in the Open Cup last year because of regional lockouts or something. Like they should have, but they didn't. Vermont Green is a notoriously smooth running machine. Now they normally play in the summer as an offset of the college window. So I don't know how much they struggle in bringing a squad that they can activate per NCAA and all that. So there could be an advantage there. but I also would never count Vermont Green out from anything.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out, especially against their first match up against Portland. How that, if they're able to get through, or because they haven't had enough time because the real season doesn't start, but it hasn't hurt them in past years. From there, I wouldn't be, I would be confident that RFC could get it done, but I also would believe that they will take the fight to RFC.
The chat's also saying, don't count out the easier team, and that sometimes that, breeds complacency with the squad. And I think that is an absolute truth. You see the difference in just even who coach, selects on game day, depending on if it's, the Hearts of Pine versus the Revolution. Not every player makes the cut from game to game. We're already going to see the Hearts of Pine. We're already going to see Hartford. I say bring on Vermont Green. So I hope they best the the Hearts of Pine in this first round so that we can see them in round 2. And hey, I wouldn't mind going up to Bernabeu and having a good time. So let's have it happen. But right before we go to break, want to ask about how people can watch this, because this is always one of the most painful parts of the watch experience.
Yeah. So, luckily CBS kind of towards the end of, was it last year? I think they picked it up. So the first 32 round matchups are going to be streamed live on Paramount Plus and simulcast on CBS Sports. Matches not airing on there, though, will be aired live on US Soccer's YouTube channel. So before we go to break, do you think that the USL moves to a 3-tiered pyramid system and MLS moves their conference to a different calendar? I'll be curious to see if we only have a few years left of this competition in its current formation. Like that could come into play, right? We have a 3-tiered system. They're playing, fall to spring because they want their transfers. So our schedules don't line up. Do we still see this competition continuing on?
For me, it just means that the regional breakouts are happening sooner, kind of like a World Cup tournament where we all know what's happening here in the summertime, but we look at all of the buildup that got teams to qualify for the World Cup. I feel like you just add more games. So maybe the rounds change in shape. Like round 1 is a considerably larger pool, and then round 2 is a considerably larger pool. So maybe it goes from the current, you have to, I think Andy said you win 4 games, you basically win the whole thing. Maybe it becomes you have to win 8 games. Now, that would be terrible for teams that have to stretch their seasons and the mileage on their players. But then it also opens up the idea that, like, for professional teams, like giving the younger guns more time, right? More development time. And maybe that's the way forward. I don't know. But once Premier League does come, it's going to have to supersede the championship at a minimum when it comes to going after that coveted CONCACAF spot. So I think there's something to that there. I also am really curious about how like the Intra-Prinks Cup tournament will look when you add another 20 teams to the tier as well. So lots of games, lots of miles on those legs. Do you have any thoughts on how that changes the pyramid system overall?
No, I think it's just going to be interesting. You're adding more teams into that sort of system, and it's just going to be, I think, interesting to see how it plays out, because right now it's a lot of hypotheticals, and we don't really know yet. We have ideas, but we won't see it in practice. So I'm just looking forward to see when we actually do get there and see how it goes.
Agreed. Well, when we come back, USL drops the news that fans have been waiting to hear, with details coming out about the Division 1 ambitions and how exactly Rhode Island FC is going to fit into the big picture, all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com. Now let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrikin and Jason Carey. All right, guys, the big news of the week: USL drops a bombshell right into the middle of the soccer ecosystem here in the United States, officially announcing the name. And it's not going to surprise any of us because the trademarks have been out there for months. We've talked to people on the inside. We've talked to people on the outside. Everyone's kind of given us the wink and nod. USL Premier has arrived. First and foremost, let's talk about the name before we get into the details. How do we feel about USL Premier? Jason, we're going to start with you.
I can't wait for it to be that sort of situation where we add league to it at the end. So it's United Soccer League Premier League, and it's just like league, so I'm looking forward to that. I think it's kind of straightforward. But at the end of the day, like it's just a league. It's probably going to get sponsored by something at some point, and we'll just call it that.
I hope it's like United Healthcare sponsoring the United Soccer League Premier League. Matt, how do you feel about the naming convention?
What sounds more impressive, Premier or Major? I think Premier sounds better. I like it's got a ring to it.
I think it has more letters in it.
That's true, and I think that gives you some more leverage. It sounds more eloquent, and so I think it's just going to make it sound a more superior league.
I don't hate anything you just said, but there is a lot of hate online about why we continue to replicate the English football system. Now, I have a theory about this. One is there's been kind of a statement of intent. One, in the sense that they called it USL Championship, so there was already kind of those early footprints that we should have read the writing on the wall. But two, you bring in like Tony Scholes and you see all of the effort for how they want to adopt ProRel. I know people aren't going to want to like this, but we were going to talk about it. Maybe we'll talk about it next week at bigger lengths, but the appetite for soccer here in America, the biggest product in terms of soccer sport is the English Premier League. So adopting something that's very familiar to the consumption at the largest level of the audience here in this country, it kind of makes sense. Now, does it feel a little bit like brother? It kind of feels a little weird in that sense, but I don't hate it. And I would challenge people that don't like it. What would have been your alternative? Like, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, I guess the one quick thing I'd add to that is, right, you have a lot of fans of Premier League, right? And so some of them maybe try MLS and they're like, I don't know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. If you just emulate the Premier League, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I understand this because I watched the Premier League. They don't have to learn some insane rule book with all these weird made up monopoly money transfer dates. And, it's very straightforward.
I do have one fear, and I don't know if USL headquarters thought of this ahead of time, but if you go and try to type in Miami FC today, Google automatically converts your search to Inter Miami. And so I'm scared from an SEO perspective that when people type in Premier League thinking they're going to get to the USL Premier League, it's going to continue to reroute, and it rightfully should continue to reroute to the EPL. I also want to know who the sponsor will be, though, because like you said that joke earlier, this could really write the first few years of its legacy. Getting into the details, though, let's talk about what they announced here in this first start, looking at how this is going to pan out. We start with the fact that we look at the three tiers, and we'll start here with this new Premier League. It's going to start in 2028. So we saw them push that calendar date back. First, it was potentially 2027. Now it's 2028. We now know that there will be up to 20, or there will be 20 teams in their long-term prospectus on how they're going to develop and shape the league. And we've heard from around the league that it's going to probably be 12 to 14 teams. My guess, it'll be 12 at the very beginning. They're going to want to start small, keep it into a controllable space where there'll be 12 to 14 teams. I want to talk about the teams here because this is going to be national table. So it's single format. You're going to get one away, one home. I don't know how you'll supplement the rest of the games that larger leagues will have to deal with them. Like, do they play extra, like
just so many
Prinks Cups?
Cups.
They have to play 2 rounds or something like that. But let's talk about the teams that will potentially go up from the championship, because that's been the big question since this news released. And here's what we do know for sure. We know Louisville is one of 2 teams that we know has announced intention to apply and become a Division I Premier team. We also know through the stadium expansions and stadium builds that Detroit City FC most likely will be in the contention for Premier. So will Pittsburgh, as they've announced their stadium expansion, Sacramento with their new rail yards development, Miami with the Homestead project, and then New Mexico with their development of their stadium. So those teams all seem to be a lock on for Division I in the Premier. Matt, I want to ask you, of those teams, is there any team that you feel shouldn't be a lock on in that list?
I mean, just looking through that list there, I think I lean towards a bit with Miami, and I'm just a bit worried because a lot of these other teams, like, what's really the competition in the area for places like Detroit City or Pittsburgh or New Mexico. I mean, Miami, there's Inter Miami not far down the road, and it gives me a bit of worry that's going to be a competition. And you looked at Miami now, how many fans are really in the seats? It's not like it's jam-packed at all. And to now you're going to go to D1, Division I soccer, and having them there, I don't know if that's really going to pan out well. And I'm already worried that those developments are just going to lead to eventually an empty stadium.
Jason, how about you? Do any of these teams look wrong?
I would just echo sentiments about Miami. I guess the only thing I would put a caveat on them is that at some point Messi will retire. He's not eternal. So I wonder if that will kind of even out the playing field, whether or not they'll be able to continue to be one of the premier, MLS teams, if you will. But I did notice something here. There's a team that's near and dear to our hearts that's not on that list.
Yeah, and so we've been saying this for I think a year and change now, and I have to actually say this like every few weeks on the Discord. People have been continuously asking, well, will Rhode Island FC be a part of this Division One plan? And I've told people multiple times, and a lot of people that know the inner workings of Rhode Island FC, the stadium is expandable. They designed it that way to add the upper tier of seats on the north and south end to complete the bowl, if you will, or the horseshoe. We knew that they had every intention because the ownership, one, they helped prop up Pro Rail and Division One amongst the ownership pool. Big advocates of it. We know Brett Johnson has a stake in Ipswich Town, who have recently suffered through both the Pro and the Rail. Maybe get the Pro again here in the near future. And so, we've been trying to say all this. And then I've also told people directly, Brett Johnson has told me that he intends to go and apply for this Division One. But everyone's like, well, it's a wait and see. It's a wait and see. Reddit, it's a wait and see. No one believed in Rhode Island. And yet here, Brett Johnson, right on the heels of the announcement of Division One, puts out a tweet up on the Rhode Island FC account. Rhode Island is a proud state, and our focus will remain steadfast on competing at the highest level of soccer in the country. We are excited and committed to compete as a member of the USL Premier League. I hope this finally shuts down the debate, because now it's there. The ownership has said it. You can't take that back, and we should be seeing Rhode Island FC be one of the considered the teams that will advance into this premiership. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I love this. I love that an owner is getting out in front of it versus he's the only owner I've seen so far since this news dropped that has jumped on the bandwagon. There's a level of confidence from this group. I'm all aboard. Any thoughts, or is there any concerns about Johnson's statement?
No concerns. When we talk about the expansion of the league, right, it might not be 20 right away. So I think that could put us in a position where maybe we don't see Rhode Island FC in the Premier right away. Depends upon how some of the standards with USF gets enforced, because in one of the recent statements about the USL Premier, they're going to have some conversations about the stadium requirements, right? So we currently do not meet that 15,000. With the expansion, obviously we could get there, but if that's going to be something from day one that ends up having to be enforced, that could see us be a few years out.
I don't believe for a second, by the way, that the PLS will be enforced at all. I think that it's going to get completely blown up and have to be re-engineered. There's been a lot of talk online that the PLS was set up as a protection for Major League Soccer against Nassau, trying to just Willy Wonka their way in to be called a division. Look at me, we're just like Major League Soccer. The infrastructure USL has been putting in place is significantly different in that journey. I mean, with the Pro Rail alone, when that happens, if a team like Orange County, since we have Andy here, moves up, and even with their expansion, they're never going to get to that standard, then what do teams just get waiver after waiver after? It doesn't make sense.
Consistently have, let's just say 10,000 show up and they're selling that out. That probably shouldn't really, exclude them from a Premier League. I've heard, I didn't have a chance to look it up. I've been busy this week, but I heard that the standards aren't even as strict on the other side of the pond here. So for us to have even stricter rules, like you said, maybe part of this was in the early days of soccer where we're afraid that, Nassau's going to show up with their little tinfoil league and be like, look at us, we're real. Where we have some history here now. There's lots of owners. There's lots of backing in this. This is a legit thing. It's not a joke.
Right. And then for the rest of those premier clubs, we talk about the opportunities, the ifs right now. Oakland with the Coliseum and their bid for either that parking lot stadium or the one on the bay that they're trying to get. Tampa Bay Rowdies with that Rays ownership money and the fact that they're basically the USL HQ's darling child. Sporting Jacks entering the mix. They have the stadium size. I just don't know if they have the ownership that can get behind it, as well as the sporting performance just yet. Las Vegas Lights, I'm not really sure. I've heard Cashman Field may be up for sale, so I don't really know what's going on with that. I need to get closer to it, but as of right now, they could field enough people to be there to meet the requirements. Birmingham playing at Protectorate Stadium. they can fit it. And then Indy 11, when they figure out wherever they'll be next, that's another opportunity. So those are some of the possible teams to make out the first 12. Do those teams feel like the right move up? And then if so, where do we close the gap on that remaining, 8 to 6 teams that need to get in? And from what we look at, it looks like it's probably a 5-year run to get to 20 teams, maybe longer, but 5 years feels right. Are those the right teams to be moving up into the Premiership on ownership and requirements alone, not necessarily sporting merit?
I think those are some good shouts there. When we look back to something Devin Kerr had said about, these are what we're talking about here is the first class. He mentioned that there's probably 5 to 6 spots will be looking into expansion. So I think it's 2026 now. There's a World Cup going to happen this year. I don't know if you guys know about this, but soccer might.
Did you know? Did they tell you?
Never even heard about it. What's that? I only know the USL Cup.
Yeah, so soccer might explode here in the sense that, we could see a lot more projects coming back, right? Maybe Oklahoma City will get revived, or Reno. We've got Atletico Dallas with their weird Game of Thrones logo, maybe even some completely new markets that kind of have been untapped and really not had an opportunity to, put out a product there. So I think there's definitely some more teams that are going to kind of pop up within the next few years.
And it did feel foreshadowing on Devin Kerr's post that there could be like clubs or markets that don't exist that like want to make the jump. And, there's not a lot of soccer teams out there. I know there are technically there are a ton, but not at that level to be suddenly a Division I team. Like, and we know MLS teams aren't going to be like, the grass is now greener on the other side of the fence. Come on over, Sporting Kansas
I don't know
City.
if you can buy yourself out of that pyramid scheme. I'm not sure how that works.
That being said, I look at the teams, and I read an article in something today, and they said one of the most likely teams to go into the Premiership was Santa Barbara Sky, and I just kind of almost laughed. I almost choked because they haven't even gotten off the ground yet. They've had to delay yet another year. I just don't see that happening, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't think Santa Barbara's the biggest appetite, despite the fact that they sold out that stadium for the U.S. women's national team friendly the other night. But the big markets left. Like if we talk beyond teams that do exist today that could make the jump into the USL ecosystem, I don't know of a lot of big markets left that aren't in direct competition with a Major League Soccer or an MLS Next Pro market. I think like if Milwaukee ever gets off the ground, it feels like it's dead on arrival at this point. But Milwaukee, Buffalo, which seems like it's starting to get some momentum on it. The one that everyone's been talking about forever, but it just can't get off the ground either. New Orleans, like there's really not a lot of sports. And there's basketball and football. And then you've got, maybe, Baltimore. Baltimore's another one that could probably do with the soccer team. I'm surprised that market hasn't been tapped. But other than that, do we think USL is going to have to go and try to actually compete? Like LA has 2 MLS teams, New York has 2 MLS teams, and Brooklyn FC now. Is the focal point going to be watching how Brooklyn survives against 2 other higher tier division soccer products, and then say, hey, we can do this in a place like Los Angeles. We could do this in a place like Seattle. We could do this in any other, Chicago. Like, is there an opportunity for the teams to be found in these places where MLS already exists, Matt?
Yeah, I think it can definitely be an opportunity with this example. And I think if you go in and you compete against these 2, Division I soccer teams out in New York, that could definitely give an advantage to other bigger cities. I don't think it's as big of an indication as if you wanted to go, I don't know, say to like Salt Lake in Utah or like Minnesota. But if you can compete in New York and with a big global residency, you could probably go out to like Los Angeles and stand a chance, or places like Chicago. At least the bigger cities. I don't know about the mid-tier sort of American cities, but at least in the higher level cities.
Yeah, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Premiership. On the championship side, it will remain capped at 20 teams in the same national table. So just like Premier, Championship will act and behave in the same way. So, they have they're going to have some holes that they have to fill from USL One League opportunities as well. So I'll be curious to see which teams move up in that space as well. And then USL One becomes a regional version of its competition. I thought this was interesting. That's kind of akin to how USL 2 operates today. They say it's to one, build local rivalries, save on the amount of cost for teams to travel, So this feels more classic American sport of divisional breakouts and then how they would compete for just winning the USL one then or promoting up. That seems like an interesting piece. Unclear on how many teams would make up that system then because they didn't have a number, which, if they had 20 and 20, why didn't they have 20 or 30 for USL one? So I think that was intentionally left out by design here. And then when you look at this overall on the Premier, Championship, and League One now, the big conversation that USL did not talk about in their press release was promotion relegation. Completely left off, which you would think these two things were operating in, hand in hand at this point. I was going into doing the research. I was concerned that we were going to have a larger conversation of will pro rel even happen in year one. Looks like in Paul Tenario's article in The Athletic, he went on to say some additional details about the release on this Premier side, including some pro rel mechanics. It sounds like initially there's going to be right out the gate 2 teams going up and 2 teams going down across the pyramid. So we will get pro rel, according to Tenario, right out the gate in 2028, which I think is important. How do you guys feel about that? Because I feel like if a team gets 3 years to build up and then, a team that comes in year one, it's their expansion year and they go immediately down, doesn't feel like fair that they didn't get the same grace period. I kind of think you have to start right away with pro rel, don't you?
Yeah, no, I definitely think you have to start right off the bat with it, because if you don't, then you kind of leave that legal room and you leave excuses to be made. But if you just start right off the cuff of it, of no matter who you are, the 2028, there's going to be relegations, there's going to be promotions, and there leaves no excuses to be made. And I think it just makes the competition that more exciting to start off the bat.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off that, I think at a certain point, like, why do you even make a pyramid if you're not going to have pro rel, right? Like, just say that the championship is now the Premier League, right? Like, and just like move everyone's name designations up, just push everyone up a league. If you're not going to have pro rel, like, why even do any of this?
I couldn't have said it better. And then Tenario expanded on, once there gets to 20 teams inside the Premier League, then it'll expand to a 3-3 format is what they're saying. We don't know how playoffs will work. We don't know how play-in games will work. Don't know if there's playoffs at the top tier or if you just win your league outright. Since if it's a national table, then it means that it's going to be a perfectly balanced schedule. At least it should be. Like, let's hope USL headquarters does not mess that up. But it looks like, for all intent, they're going to stabilize this league and then rip the Band-Aid off, and we're going to be off to the races here in 2028. So it's an interesting time. I'm super excited.
Yeah. When we look at like the this announcement, we're still in the middle of a labor dispute. Do you think this is kind of a bad look here, or at this point, is this maybe tied into that?
I mean, USLPA has gone on saying multiple times they don't know the plan. They don't know the goals. They don't understand the system for how Premier will work in its integration against championship efforts. I think this peels back the onion a little bit in that regard. But even USL HQ said that they haven't told the owners how all of the mechanics are going to work in this yet, and that's going to come in February. A lot of people are rightfully frustrated online that USL announced all this before ratifying a new CBA. I think it is a little bit of a bad look. I think it's a little bit of egg on their face because they know that I think a majority of the fans are behind the USLPA right now, and as excited as they are for Division One, we want to make sure that the players get taken care of. I think the USLPA is winning the fight for the hearts and minds of people right now, and they've been doing a pretty good job of spotlighting some of their issues and critical talking points. But at the same time, I do want to learn about this. I don't think that you can't announce this and still work on a CBA at the same time. It tells me that if they're putting all this effort into planning it, then they're going to eventually come to a conclusion on the CBA that will work for everyone, because otherwise you won't even have a Premier in 2028, let alone maybe even a championship match here in 2026. So it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's a bit of a bad look. I would have done something first, but I also think maybe they have sponsors. Maybe they have partners that they need to get contracts. They need to get negotiations started, and they need to put this out there so that they can go, hey, like, here's the real deal. But I think this gives the USLPA even more ammunition for their CBA negotiations now, because now USL has put the shot clock on themselves, and that's not necessarily a great place to be. Matt, any final thoughts before we go to break?
No, I mean, Justin Cuff definitely agree with that in that regard. Just not a good look overall.
Yeah. Well, hey, when we get back, we've got updates from the first access to Rhode Island FC of the preseason at Media Day, as well as interviews with coach and a couple of players, all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page. Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrikin and Jason Carey. I cannot wait for Juju to do those reads when he comes in for his interview in just a couple of weeks. He's going to do so much fun for the show. So excited to have him on. But we're not here to talk about Juju today. We're here to talk about Media Day and just want to start things off with what we got to see and kind of what we didn't see with Rhode Island in that first access. First and foremost, I just want to get it out the door. There was probably 30 people there, players of all sizes and shapes, colors, and I mean, they were all men, I think. I wasn't looking too hard, but they were definitely all there with one mission in mind, and that was to start the preseason and start getting ready to play just 37 days away, by the way, for the first game of Rhode Island FC's season. Did see a lot of faces I did not recognize. And I tried to use the contacts that we have within the Discord. There are some very smart people, guys, in the Discord who look and try to identify a lot of the younger talent that shows up on the pictures, the videos that we see that Rhode Island FC puts out. Saw a lot of these people in particular. I only saw maybe one or two from, I think one of them was from Providence College, and I believe one was from Bryant. And I didn't see any URI guys. I didn't see any other like regional players that I was familiar with. I'm not that strong in it, but I won't pretend that I am. But from what I've been told, all of them are not really there for trialists. They were there just to keep their competitive edge, to play against a professional team, to scrimmage, to keep our team sharp, and to maybe get some contacts, get some social networking out there with the coaching staff. So I know a lot of people are like, where are more signings coming? We're especially going to talk about the one rumor at the end of the show. But for all intent and purpose, there wasn't a lot of like, you know, in the years past, we've always said like, here's the faces, here's the places. Who are these people? Are they going to be joining the team? Not a lot of that going on. Now, when we talked to the players, they all felt really good. None of them were injured or on the sideline, which is a big change from last year when I think 6 players were in what like I'd call the reserve camp, and they were all mending injuries, which is what the very first time we saw Hugo Bacharach. He was in that injured camp alongside Jackson Lee and Isaac Anking. Oh, missed that guy. That, by the way, that post from Isaac Anking, did you see that? Where he ruptured his Achilles?
How far back are we going?
Like it was a week ago. I know that's a fair question because I feel like Isaac Anking gets injured
right
24/7. Like the guy has the worst luck in the world.
I haven't seen the most recent one.
It was devastating. Like a week ago, he ruptured his Achilles, and it sounded like he had gotten a contract with a team. I just if we were drinking, I would pour one out for Isaac Anking right now because he just deserves everything in this universe, and like the universe constantly challenges him. But anyway, so talked to a lot of players, talked to a lot of staff, a lot of good positivity. Now they were out at was it Four Kicks in Taunton, so different from their normal practicing early on to avoid the cold out in Smithfield at Wide World of Sports. But they looked good. No injuries. They looked good. They looked happy. There's not as many transfers into the squad this year. So like from an integration and a gelling point, didn't seem like a lot of problems. And everyone felt really happy. And I'm telling you, that felt different than last year. I'm not going to put anything else out there on it, but people seem like going into year 3 of this project that they were taking it from a different approach, a different mindset. And it was exciting to see. So having said that, I want to start with some of the interviews that we captured last week in that first media day. And then let's talk about them as we see them and understand them. So here, first and foremost, is Coach Kano with his interview with the media day there at Taunton's Four Kicks.
Morning, Coach. Want to first ask you, how was your off season, and did you even get to take a break in between?
Yeah, it was good. Time to recharge, refresh. I mean, always something to do, but yeah, I enjoy it. So it's enjoyable work. So it's not a problem for me.
You famously told everyone last year to temper expectations about running it back after a successful USL Cup final run, and then you've rewarded fans with the squad and getting a back-to-back Eastern Conference final appearance. I want to ask you, you said the objectives, the goals would change year to year, especially for the second year onlining Centerville Bank Stadium. How do those goals and objectives change for you and the squad here in year 3?
Yeah, I don't remember the objectives that you're talking about or saying. Like, obviously, I say things, but the objective is always to win. We wake up every day. Like, I don't come here expecting to lose. I want to lose a game. We prepare to win every single game and try to give it our best, but there's also 25 teams that have the same goal. So, yeah, can you judge us if we're successful, if we made the Eastern Conference final? Yeah, I guess so, but we would love to do better in the regular season. So, but yeah, it's nice to end that way with the structure of our league. But the goal is to win every single game, every single day. Is it possible? No. But we give it our best.
How about it from a development standpoint? What do you want to see out of the guys this year? So many of them returning for a third year in a row here. What are some of the things you'd like to see this team change or evolve into here in year 3?
Just more signs of maturity. Like, they're older now. So it's a good core of them that's been with us since day one. I think it's 7 players that started in the USL Championship final and 10 players that are returning that started in the Eastern Conference final from last year. So signs of maturity, connectivity, development together, growing as people and as players.
How are things going to change going forward? Obviously, defensively, you guys have been incredible the last couple of years. You brought in some new guys. What's going to change maybe going forward this year, or how you want to play?
Explain your question. What do you mean change?
To create more chances, to finish more chances, I guess. You brought in some obviously talented guys who obviously can put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, the objective of the game is to score goals and to score a lot of goals and to score more than the opposition. So yeah, hopefully we score more goals than last year.
But is there anything changing about the way you attack, or is it
score more than we did last year?
Sure. What do they bring? What does the guys you brought in bring to you guys this year?
Leo's is quality. He's obviously been in some high quality environments. The same with Nick. Both of those are attack minded players. I think Leo is a serious goal scorer. Like, he takes goal scoring seriously. Not that other people don't, but I think Leo's got a nice little edge to him. Nick is direct, likes to get into people, getting behind people, but he was also an attacker in college, so he's an attack minded right wing back. But Augustine coming in as a creative player when he gets here. We haven't seen him yet. Dwayne, we're counting on development from Dwayne. Noah.
How much is it for Dwayne to come in with a full preseason as opposed to what happened coming in just getting thrown into it last year?
Yeah, I think he came into a team that had quality in the group last year and in those positions that he played. But you could argue that our attacking core has gotten better. So yeah, he's going to have to find his way in that, and it's going to be different challenges for him and us. It's always challenges. It's always different.
Connor, what was the focus this offseason in terms of the acquisitions you wanted to make?
Get better.
But I mean, you obviously had seen some deficiencies or some things you'd like to improve. What were in the mindset of what you wanted to approach this, and where you went out to reach out for the players and the caliber you were looking for? Beyond getting better, what was some of the initiatives that you wanted to see out of the acquisitions you were making?
Yeah, I think, look, last year I think we were elite defensively. We were one of the best defensive teams in the league. But the name is the game to create chances and create more than the opposition and score more goals. So yeah, that's the objective, is to score goals and to score a lot more goals than the opposition.
Notably, a couple players leave the squad in between preseason and postseason. Any word on losing Maxi and Chico into interleague transfer deals? How is that going to change the overall squad design, and kind of what were your thoughts in the business of making those transactions happen?
Yeah, look, you would love to be able to keep teams together. The team has to evolve. All the guys that are left were good guys, good people. We felt like we've done a good job of creating a good locker room and a good group. There's always going to be evolution of the team. Ultimately, like I said before, 10 players that started in the Eastern Conference final are over there right now. So do we want players to leave? Do they want to leave? It's a bunch of evolving parts. People want what's best for everybody. So we think, especially Maxi and Albert, they both landed in situations. Like, I think we care about them as people, and we want them to be happy off the field too. And we knew it was a good business decision for us, and it's a good situation for them. So you try to help them out as best as possible. But we wish them all the best.
And then this preseason, I noticed that both of the new expansion sides are going to be a part of your training camps. Was that by design, or is that just luck of the draw to see these championship squads in their first season?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're obviously not going to Bermuda this year. We're going back to IMG, but we felt we needed to add. I guess when we're playing USL Championship opposition, I think you have a better idea of what you're getting, and that's ultimately we really need to test ourselves. So we have three USL Championship teams on the preseason docket, so that I think that can provide us with some clarity of where we're at. Obviously, it's preseason, doesn't really matter until the season kicks off, but I think that gives us more competitive games and a good gauge of where the group could be at come March 7th.
Speaking of March 7th, you get the first game of your season as a home opener, something you did not get in year two, having to play so many games on the road until Centerville Bank was open. How important is that for you guys now to be able to play your first game in front of Rhode Island FC fans, and what does this do for the guys?
Yeah, look, it gives us a nice target to hit. I mean, each of the first 2 years we didn't even play the first weekend, and then obviously we were on the road last year for 7, year 1, had a home game in week 2, but we felt that to really have a good start and be competitive from day one, playing at home was going to be important. So that's something that we try to achieve. The friendly was scheduled. The league scheduling was friendly to us. So yeah, we're looking forward to playing at home on March 7th.
And then finally, is there any news about the player USLPA, CBA issue? Like, as a front office and a technical staff, are you having to make contingency plans in the event of a lockout or a player strike?
Honestly, I hear bits and pieces, but my job is to coach the team, and I'm sure the league and the Players Association will work it out. Nobody wants a work stoppage. People want to play, and I'm sure it'll get worked out. But I'm in the know, but I'm not involved at all.
So that was Coach Cano. Obviously, I didn't get to hear it because for some reason the studio didn't want to give the playback, so you two both got to hear it. Want to ask the question here as we get back into it. What were your initial thoughts from Cano's dialogue and kind of how things went in that interview from your guys' perspective, hearing it for the first time? Matt, we'll start with you.
I'll just say first, God, I enjoy his interviews. He's just such a hardo for me. Like, he gives me a bit more like polite Belichick vibes. He's like, what are you going to improve upon? We're going to score more.
So I thought we had started pretty well because I figured it was a new year, new Cano, and he was like, Matt, we're going to rebuild the bridge of trust here. And we don't have any bad blood between him and I. I know that he has his take on media, and sometimes that's propagated by others in the space, and the whole complaints about who he is as a person. And I don't think he handles negativity or lack of performance really well. But I was like, hey, let's start this well. And if you hear in the first couple questions, he's like, I had a good time. Took some time off, recharged the batteries, love what I do. Like, it was going good. And I won't say the person's name, but if you know that person, if you can identify his voice, the second he asked the question where Cano was like, can you explain that more? I was like, we're off the rails. It's over. Cano is going to lock down for the remainder of this conversation. And he did. The very next question. So how did you approach the rebuild for this roster? I wanted to make it better. Now, I didn't let him get away with it. I asked the expanded question, but it does. It becomes pulling teeth with the guy. And I don't care if you're not a quote machine, but man, like, it'd be great. I want the goal, Matt, is to one day have him do a 10-minute segment per week on the show where I'm going to make him be my best friend. He doesn't know it yet. I'm going to watch his dogs or something. I don't know, but we're going to become best friends at some point before he moves on to bigger and better soccer pastures. You're spot on by the way, on your intuition, though. That's exactly how he delivers his press conferences and his interviews. Jason, what were kind of some of your initial thoughts on how Cano propped up and answered the questions ahead of the season?
Yeah, I mean, you had to do a little bit of work there, but it was good to, after some prying, kind of get to hear him talk about some of his kind of his thought process and going to this next season, and also good to hear him talk a little bit about each of the new players and kind of what he's thinking that they can bring and how he's kind of viewing this upcoming season.
I was afraid, and I also forgot the question once I had to start doing damage control, but I wanted to ask him if there was an intentional deviation away from championship players. Famously, we've now seen Maxi and Chico leave, and I was curious, every player we've brought on so far in this offseason, preseason has been a non-championship player in a league notorious for recycling talent and rotating them around. Didn't get to it. I guess the curious thing from the perspective of him saying they identified the positions of need and like the things that they were looking for. Do you feel that Kano has found the right pieces? And though also I didn't ask if that was offset. Like, did we bring Leo on to offset Chico, or were you going to bring Leo on not necessarily knowing that Chico was going to depart yet? Do you feel like what Kano was saying in the in-between spaces of his words, that like that was the tactical breakouts that he was looking to acquire?
I think so. I mean, I think the important part actually is something that you would mention. The fact that you saw a squad that seemed happy and like was, when a locker room is together, when they're happy, when the guys can gel and they can like play with freedom within, Kano's system. I think that's important in regards to my expectations for this next year.
Yeah, I agree. Matt, any final thoughts on Kano before we move on?
No, just to say, I mean, you get that same core of the team, and like you say, they seem like they're playing happy. You go to back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. If it's not broken, you don't really have to do too many major moves yet.
And I agree with that. I mean, Kano said it twice in the interview where he reminded us of the core group having been in 2 Eastern Conference Finals, a USL Cup final. Very asterisk of him to mention, Clay Holstead getting 2 minutes in the Eastern Conference Final last year. So, like, he's not wrong about the number of players that made an appearance, but Clay Holstead just getting in under the skin of his teeth there to hit that number. But I agree. I think that he bringing the rest of this group in and seeing what he has, and if they can stay healthy, again, like we can really come out the gates running instead of playing that catch-up game where we don't really build momentum until the middle of the season. I want to hark on one last point, though, about the maturity part. I was curious what your guys' thoughts are on what he meant by the maturity. Was it that the team has experienced so much loss that they need to push that past them, not let that hang on them and move beyond it? Or was there something else that you heard in his statement about the team needing to come together and mature a little bit more? I don't think Noah Fuson could ever be that level of mature. I need him to be fun Fuson, but what did you see when a coach talks about maturity like that? What is it that sparks in your mind?
I mean, you start to think about that in regards to experience, right? A lot of maturity comes from experiencing life. And in this regards, we're talking about soccer players experiencing big moments, right? They've been to a final where they, maybe didn't perform the way they wanted to. They've been to 2 back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. They've gone through struggles, right? A lot of people can kind of get molded through that struggles and kind of learn how to deal with that, especially as we've seen in the last 2 seasons, the team really found a way to turn it on. I think at this point, going through that 2 years in a row, I think, at least this is probably what Kano was hoping too, that with that maturity from the team, we're maybe going to see a slightly different team in the regards that they're not going to struggle right off the bat like maybe they did the first year and second year.
Well, I think the base we go off of that is, like you said, with the struggles that they've been going through to see if they're able to mature and deal with the loss and figure out how to get through that and go back to a 3rd Eastern Conference Final and move further. Or if they're not going to be able to overcome that, I think a lot of it does just come with maturity and knowing how it is to lose to keep going forward.
As long as we don't become that perennial, always a bridesmaid, never a bride, like some other soccer teams here in New England. Before we move on, Coach Almeida has a question asking, has the midfield depleted, and has it been since last year? I don't know if I agree with that, Coach. The midfield seems like it's one of the most heavily congested areas of competition for a starting spot, even a bench rotational spot on the team. I think the right flank has been left as a pretty wide open hole for a majority of the season. So if you want to expand on the comment, then go for it. But I feel like, I mean, even today in the experiment of, who starts on this team, it's going to be what we think it'll be Holstead and Bacharach in the back as like a double pivot. And then potentially you've got maybe Pitti in that front cam position. Noah could drop into that position.
Still have Zach Harivo,
AST.
He can play anywhere.
I don't know. I think, we've hemorrhaged more center backs than we have midfielders at this point, and we've only lost really one with Maxi. I mean, you could say Anking, but he wasn't really a part of the squad last season. And then Joe Brito retiring. If anything, like, I think we have plenty of depth in that space. It's really the forward line that continues as it was last year to be the area of opportunity. I could be wrong, but I Matt, do you agree or disagree with that?
No, I mean, I definitely think there's some to take away from that on what it's looking like. And I just want to see where it's going to come into the actual season to really go forward on that, because I think it's just at this point a lot of speculation and interpretation of it. I mean, you've seen how the team has developed throughout the past couple of years, and they look like they may be depleted in certain spots, and they still find ways to win. So I think a lot of it's just going to come down to what happens on the field when we get there, no matter what the current look and on paper of this team is.
Yeah, it's hard to say that this team is depleted defensively when they were one of the best defensive teams of last year. And of the starting players, you lost rotationally Mabika and you lost Ibarra. And even then they weren't lock-on starters. Like some of we've in essence we've upgraded with Hugo having the flexibility and Jope coming in on the left side. Like I just don't know if I see the same thing, but we will have to see. And Matt, to your point, it is very much speculation. So we're going to move on to the next two interviews and just preface these as these are going to be part of the YouTube exclusive. So if you're watching along with us right now, congratulations, you've made the cut. And if you're listening on the podcast, you're going to have to go to the YouTube channel to go get these at the, look at your time mark on your Spotify, on your Apple Podcast, and that's where you're going to want to cut in to get the YouTube content. So we're going to start with Noah Fuson and his interview on Media Day here last week with Rhode Island FC. Here with Noah Fuson. Noah, welcome back to year 3 with Rhode Island FC. First question, hairdo, you got to explain it.
I don't know. I like to change things up, and I had that hairstyle for a while, so I was like, all right, I'm going to just do something new now. So, yeah, I just was like, why not cut it? It's just hair. It'll go back.
And what did you do this offseason?
Just hung out with my family, trained, enjoyed the Southern California weather. Yeah, that was it for the most part.
You're aware there's like an Arctic blast coming. There's going to be like 12 to 24 inches of snow. Are you prepared for that?
Just give a shout out to my girlfriend. I got home yesterday from training. She's like, can you help me at the car? I was like, sure. There's like 20 gallons of water, like non-perishables. I didn't even know what a non-perishable was. And we got like beans and stuff. So, Southern California, first blizzard, we're locked in.
So what's going to be new for you this year? It's year 3. This is a very familiar preseason experience for you now. What's different so far in these first few days?
I think just the intent that we're starting the year with, it's very clear what we want to achieve, and we're starting from day one, putting that intention of the result that we want to see come November in our heads from the first day. So I think we're all training with that in mind.
Does it get easier? I mean, 16 players return in year 1, 17 players now in year 2. It's like the same group of guys keeps coming back. Does it get easier now in preseasons? And is it harder for the newer guys to get into the squad and get comfortable as a family?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a really deep squad, and we've become a family, like you said. This is the 3rd year having the core of the group staying together, and I think it really helps with how we're going to play this year. And we all know each other and each other's tendencies and how we want to play and what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, and I think it's going to lead to a successful year. And the new guys have brought great quality, and they're going to slide right in, and yeah.
How are things going to change tactically going forward? Obviously, a couple guys left that played a lot of minutes for you last year. How are things going to be different for you guys going forward to create more chances, make life easier on yourselves?
I don't know. I feel like that's a coach question. I don't know how the tactics are going to change, but
what do those guys bring to you? What can they do to help you guys alleviate the pressure on you and JJ to create everything?
No, I think we've only been training for a week, but I think that the quality is clear to see. Just from you can tell in the warm-ups and the passing and the rondo, and these guys are bringing a lot of quality to our team, which is only going to help us improve. And so I think it's going to lead to a lot more chances, a lot of creativity, and a lot of really good players are joining us this year.
What's the mindset? You said the mindset is clear. What is that approach, or as one of the leaders on this team, what is the mindset, or what is the approach this season?
To win a championship, win trophies. We got so close the last 2 years, and then close last year with the Jägermeister, and now it's like from day one, it's like finish the job. that's the only thing that we're worried about.
How confident are you guys going to this? I mean, you have a lot of talent. You obviously know what you have. How confident is this group of guys?
I think we're super confident. I mean, we all know how good we are and how good we can be when we perform at our highest level. And I think if we're able to do that, like, sky's the limit. So.
No, you last season had mentioned that you had personal goals that were separate from the team's objectives. Did you feel like you accomplished those, and how have those adjusted for you here ahead of this third season for Rhode Island FC?
Yeah, no, last year I didn't accomplish them, and it sucked. But, you know, that's what the off-season's for, is for reflection and taking time to figure out how I can accomplish not just the team goals, but my personal goals this year. So, yeah, I've set new goals, and I'm already thinking about how I can accomplish them and how just even the trainings here can help me go down the right path to accomplishing them.
And then finally, you know, last season we talked about how getting to the USL Cup final, the new stadium, it put a lot of targets on the players' backs because a lot of expectations, teams were coming in and wanting to play at a higher level. You go back-to-back in Eastern Conference final appearances. Does that same level of pressure exist? Do you expect teams to be coming at you just as hard as they have in the previous 2 seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a privilege to have that target on our back and have that pressure of knowing that teams are coming to our stadium and looking around like, wow, like, this is sick. Like, we want to play our best game in this stadium against this team, back-to-back Eastern Conference finals in our first 2 years as a club. Like, I think, you know, teams might envy that or be jealous of that or want to show that, you know, oh, they're not that good, they just got lucky. So I think it's a privilege to be able to get everyone's best shot.
I heard you say, what are the personal goals this year? Do you keep those to yourself, or what do you have?
Yeah, those are close to the chest.
Those only get revealed at the end of the season.
Kind of match what you did 2 years ago? Is it kind of like that? Yeah.
Can't tell you.
Can't tell you? Okay.
Can't tell you.
Thanks, Noah. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. I'll let you know at the end of the year.
So that's Noah Fuson. I love, by the way, when Noah does the hard work of saying, hey, that's not a question for me, that's a question for coach. And mad respect to, again, I don't want to burn one of my colleagues in the media field, but like you got to ask the right questions. And for those of you that want a real treat, go on the Discord for our channel, for the Rhode Island FC Discord. I posted like a deleted scene that I wasn't going to put into it. That's for the exclusive. That's a fun treat too. Some of it feels very, you know, boilerplate. It's the things you say, but what did you guys extract out of Noah's answers?
I mean, it you know, I think it's important that he acknowledged his struggles last year, and I think that's good. So he acknowledges that, I know that he expects a lot and puts a lot of himself, and maybe his first year was a little bit kind of above his average, and I think he wants to try and get back to somewhere closer to that. We saw some flashes of that last year towards the end of the season, but we just didn't get any of that consistency. So I'm hoping that, like, I think that would be the more kind of important thing here going into this next season is, it doesn't have to win the Golden Playmaker, but can you throughout the season, every few games, get yourself into some sort of contribution either from chances or goal scoring opportunities.
Yeah. He also told me that he'd only reveal those goals if he makes them, because we didn't hear what last year's were. We tried, and he's like, I'm not going to tell you those either. So, Matt, you've interviewed dozens of players, dozens of coaches. What do you take out of that interview beyond the normal stuff?
Well, first, and you definitely saw this a lot with that first year. It seemed at times he was kind of carrying the team a bit more on his back, and I think that kind of showed in the second year a bit more down than what he had in that first year. But I think, they always say the third year is where you really know what you got and what you prove. And I think this will be the kind of year where he's going to try to prove that first year wasn't a fluke and that he really is capable of doing those things. And we'll see what he ends up doing on the pitch and if he's able to really carry that out. And look, I think for first, if you really want to do that, maybe grow the hair back, get those long locks back. I think that maybe that's where
didn't work for
magic
Maxey.
was.
It didn't work for Maxey, so I'm a little concerned why he went. This seems like this is serious. No, also not as funny as he normally is in his interviews, right? Like I told you, we need fun Fuson. He was very serious. Like he could be at a whole new level of like mental state.
Because as the kids say, he's locked in.
There it is. And to your point, Matt, Coach himself even said it famously. He said Noah Fuson outperformed the expectations we had for him in year one. We saw this regression in year two. So now this is year three. And I think for a lot of the players too that have been with this team since the very first day, it's really time to find where is their consistency, where is their ability to perform here in the championship. I will ask this question then, though. Do we expect him to try to put it all on his shoulders here in this year, or do we expect to see him find his place to help gel with the team? Because I do agree there were times, especially in the absence of Williams, where he tried to do something. You could see him get frustrated, but it wasn't quite there. Do you see him being back into like a cog in the machine and making it all work? Or do we think that Noah is still going to continue to try to drag this team along when others aren't?
I think it's important that he probably doesn't put too much pressure on himself in that regards. That can kind of maybe get him into a situation where he is overthinking things, which felt like kind of sometimes what he was doing last year a little bit too much. Maybe he can kind of, try not to force things. And if you will, like you said, maybe to a certain extent, become a cog in the wheel and really try and make sure that he is looking for those key moments, but not trying to force it every play.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a golden playmaker, you're setting others up, not yourself necessarily. Matt, final question. We know when there's snowstorms, you get milk and bread, but apparently Noah Fuson loaded up on beans and water. Do we need to educate him on what the correct protocol is when snowstorms hit New England?
Look, I mean, the number one thing you have to do in New England when it comes to the snowstorms is you get the egg, the milk, the bread, and you go to the packy. I mean, that's what you have to do. You have to get all that out of the way. I don't know if he's really up to date on that. I don't know what you're going to do with beans. But
I was surprised.
I mean, more power to him.
You don't brag that you have a bag of beans, like a large bag, a plethora of beans, but
just the beans.
Noah Fuson,
making it chili.
Noah Fuson, when you hear this eventually, when Mother Fuson hears this, please give us the chili recipe or invite us over for your home cooked chili. Now that we know you have all these beans, let's make it a party. We're going to move on to the final interview of the time. And I want to just preface so that none of you're all put on notice now. It's not Leo Afonso. It's Leo Afonso. I think I screw it up in the interview. Again, I won't be able to hear it right now, so you guys can try to catch if I did. I'm still not sure myself. But here is Leo Afonso in his initial conversation and debut here with Rhode Island FC.
Leo, welcome to Rhode Island FC here in their third season. This is your first season with the squad. First and foremost, want to ask the big question. How is it that you ended up here with Rhode Island FC? What attracted you to the club and what attracted you to this team?
Yeah, I mean, I know the club has been having 2 successful years, and I was just attracted to winning. I want to win, and I'm here to be part of the team, and I'm looking forward to win.
What do you bring? What's different that you can bring to this team that maybe they haven't had the last couple of years? What qualities do you bring?
Energy, intensity. I'm a winner. I like to win and score goals.
What kind of player is RFC getting? When they see you on the field, what are they going to see?
Hard worker, 90 minutes. I keep going. A lot of fuel, a lot of energy in the tank, and just excited to be out there.
Leo, you bring a wealth of experience from the MLS, from Inter Miami to Atlanta United. How have you seen already the level of your squad here and the difference between Division I and Division II, or is it negligible?
It's negligible, I'll say. There's a lot of guys here that can be playing easily on any MLS team. I think it's more the hype of the MLS, and just I think it's very similar to the level.
And then, in a second ago, you were asked, what do you think you'll bring to this team? But most importantly, looking at your player profile, you can be an inverted winger, a right winger, a striker. Where are you the most comfortable, though? If Kano gave you the decision of where you got to be on the field, where would that be?
Probably on the left side. I like cutting in on my right foot, so I think left side, but I'm comfortable playing all 3.
And then Ocean State, it's cold. It's not Florida. It's not Atlanta weather. Have you ever experienced cold weather like this before, or are you in for a shock, so to speak, especially with this next week's storm?
No, I lived in Philadelphia for a year during my high school days, and I went to college in Virginia, so I'm a little used to the cold. But, yeah, excited to see all the snow every day.
How easy has it been to integrate? Obviously, these guys, they've been successful, 17 guys back from last year. How easy has it been integrating with this group?
It's been great. The guys are great. They're very welcoming. Great teammates, good people.
How quickly can you develop a rapport? How easy does it become where things become intuitive with other guys? How long does that take to kind of know where guys are moving, know where they want the ball, them knowing what you want to do?
A couple of days, couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah, depends. I feel like your movement dictates where the ball should be played, so it all depends on what the other person's doing, so it's not not too hard.
Obviously, you're probably going to play a lot with Noah. What have you made of him, and how are you guys kind of working together? I mean, it's obviously just practice, but what have you seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player, very technical. I think he likes the ball more to his feet. Those are the little things I noticed in the past 3 days, but yeah, excited to play with him.
Do you have any connections to the players or staff? I imagine maybe Spratty with the Philadelphia Union too. Maybe you got some exposure to him, but is there any other connections we don't know about that existed before you came to the team?
I didn't know Sprouty at Philly, but I know Frank Chavez, the center back. He was at Miami when I was there in high school, so I've known him for a little bit.
That's awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck this season. Can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lev. Appreciate it, man. Congrats. Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
I love when I think I know something like, oh, you're at Philly too, and Spratty was at Philly too. It's like, nah, I didn't know Spratty whatsoever. Like, but I knew, and I love it too. I knew Frank Chavez. Like, I took me a second. I'm like, Frank Chavez? Who is Frank Chavez? What I don't know who Frank Chavez is. Frank Darce, of course, for those that could not put the two and two together. I'm gonna have to go back at one point when I finally master Spanish and then interview Frank Darce. Or maybe it's you, Jason, that will finally conduct your own interview.
Good luck with that. I know some Spanish. I can barely understand what he says.
I work in Central Falls. I can try my best.
We may have to call you in for a ringer. I look at the timeline, and I thought like Frank Darce, like I know he was a Cuban expat who did one of those things where like he came here on a team tour and then defected, but I thought he went straight down to Rio Grande Valley. I didn't realize there was a moment in time where he was on the streets of Miami playing ball with Leo Afonso. So that's exciting to see. Initial thoughts. There's a big one that I want to talk about, but I'll let you guys lead the charge here. Matt, we'll start with you. Big impressions on Leo's first conversation with Rhode Island FC.
I'll just say, first off, he said Virginia's cold. Is Virginia cold? I was not aware of this. I thought it was south.
I mean, anything before like the Carolinas, maybe.
I was talking to someone from Virginia the other day, and they were complaining about 8 inches of snow that they got and some ice on top of that. Yeah, I know.
We're getting another 1 to 2 here this week.
They said they're just not used to it, and the infrastructure is not there. So
I mean, is Providence infrastructure there? Hey-o, gotcha, Smiley, gotcha. Anyways, I digress. Not a Providence politics show. Back to Leo. Who's taking the charge? No, you were in charge. Give us your take on Leo.
I mean, my first impression and what I really like is this guy just seems cocky.
Love it.
I love it. You need that. You haven't really had a guy on this team that kind of like, what? You looking at me like that? What guy is really
JJ Williams? He does things that make. I mean, it's not Anthony Siaha levels of inappropriate, but he does things that like we can't usually talk about on this show.
No, I understand that, but I mean, like when I hear JJ talk, I don't sit there and be like, oh, this guy's a bit of a jack. I don't really think that when I hear him talk. With this guy, like I feel like, you get a couple in him, he might say things he's not really supposed to say, and he might get in a lot of trouble.
Again, JJ Williams.
Look, I mean,
there was a story. So here we go. Backlog for last season. There was a moment in time where we were interviewing, and for those of you that don't know how the press conferences work. In the first year, it was perfect. We got to choose. We would choose who we wanted. And since Jason and I think, are the only show in town that could say we've been to almost every press conference, I think we've each missed one or two, but I think we've only ever missed one in its entirety. Like no other reporter can say that claim. We used to get to choose. This last year, we no longer got to choose. We were given who we were given. We could nudge some requests or try to influence, but normally it was just whoever they wanted to put in front of us besides coach. And sometimes coach didn't even show up. We'd get Spratty or McKay. And so there was this one time, and it was not the last. It was not the last game at Centerville Bank, but there was a game. It was a bad game for Rhode Island. It might have been the Jägermeister Cup where we got knocked out against Sacramento. And we were there talking, and you can hear JJ screaming, let me in there. I want to go talk to the press. I got something to say about the refs. I want to say something. And they pushed him away because the locker room's right next to the press room. And we did all of our stuff, and people were wrapping up their microphones and their cameras. And then JJ popped his head back in, like, do you guys want to, can I still talk? And like, we all looked at each other, and we all knew collectively, the entire press that was there, we knew we would get the best quotes of the season in that moment. We would get those things that like elevate, like, oh, this is This is capital J journalism. And we also knew simultaneously that we would get JJ Williams fined, who had a child on the way. And we also knew that we'd get in trouble with the communications team. So we said, JJ, the mics are off, but you are more than welcome to vent. And he's like, if you're not going to record it, I don't want to say it. And he walked out of the room and just screaming obscenities down the hallway. So I'm telling you, JJ Williams is basically Daniel Day-Lewis. The man is always in method acting. I ran into him in Federal Hill once, and he should be. He's a cocky, arrogant person, and you need that in a striker profile. But Matt, I agree 100%. Leo seems to be coming in with that same cock of the walk, and I'm here for it. But that paints a target where if you're going to be that cocky, if you're going to be that arrogant, if you're going to be that braggadocious, you're going to have to back it up on the pitch when you get your chance. So I'm excited to see what happens with that, but time will tell. On does Leo's arrogance match his abilities as a baller? We're going to find out. Jason, what do you got as initial impressions from his interview?
Yeah, I was going to use the word confidence, but yeah, I mean, I can see where you guys are coming from. It just felt like he was very confident for someone we haven't seen play for us yet. So I'll be interested to see how that translates to the pitch. My big takeaway though was that, you know, Noah already on Ox duty. You'd hear it in background. And like you'd mentioned, sometimes in the press conferences afterwards, how close the locker room is, you can sometimes hear, you know, if it's a big win, they're celebrating, you can hear them just blasting stuff in the background.
So we're in the interviews, and I think it was intentional. Jojea walks up with the speaker, and it's this massive speaker. It's like a two-hand job to hold and walk at the same time. And he walks right across the backdrop of Leo's interview. And like, even Con was like, what are you guys doing? There's cameras, there's microphones. Like, what are you doing? And like, Jojea just kind of looked up, and all he did was he pivoted the sound away so that it didn't pick up as much on the audio. But like, yeah, like they were within 10 feet just blasting it across, you know, a pretty much empty indoor soccer complex. So the thing I have, by the way, which I expected you to do, but I guess I'll leave it for the drop here. Did you notice that Leo said that if he got to choose, and I don't want to Steven Turnbull this, but if he got to choose, he would play as the left winger, an inverted winger, to shoot off of his right foot. Guys, I'm going to tell you, we've been trying to figure out how he'll position as a forward/winger on this team. We've only seen him play as a left winger for Miami. This is kind of an interesting debacle, because now you've picked a player whose self-identified profile is in one of the most heavily congested, deepest spots we have on the field. I mean, you've got Noah Fuson, who likes to do the exact same thing. Dwayne Atkinson, who likes to hover in that left quartile. You've got Jojea Quazera as a left wing back, where if he's pushed up into winger responsibilities, he wants to get up in that space. He did say rightfully he can play as a secondary forward. He can play on the right. He's very versatile, but he would want to play in that position. What does that tell you? Like, is this I don't want to say an alarm, but I don't want to be dramatic, but like, is this like, why couldn't we just go find a right winger with a left foot, or just a right winger that just loves to, you know, become a golden playmaker themselves?
I won't be too concerned unless we find ourselves, you know, a few months in the season and still having problems in terms of scoring. So I'm not going to read into it too much for now. You know, when we did get him and kind of making some of those connections, looks like, oh yeah, another player who likes to be on the left with the right foot. You know, I'll just kind of give that a wait and see. I'll put that in the back pocket for to maybe bring up later.
Matt, you've been watching soccer for a long time. MLS players making the move to championship. Defensively, they always seem to do really well. Like Nick Scardina, I'm not really worried about. He'll integrate really well. Someone, I won't say the name, but they said that Nick Scardina, I incorrectly said that he is only a right back and that he could never be a right wing back. I was getting roasted online for that. Yes, he is a fullback by trade, because that is where he played for Charlotte FC. But if you go and read his player profile and how Charlotte used him, he was a right midfielder for Crown Legacy for his entire MLS Next Pro career. And in college, he was a forward. So do not tell me he cannot be a right wing back in a system just because he played one season as a right back. If the dude has been up and down the vertical, he very much can play in that entire space on that right side. So I'll leave it at that. But I was really shocked to hear someone say like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I actually usually know more than most people when it comes to these kinds of things. But I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about these players. Final thoughts on the interviews, final thoughts on, like, if this was your only taste before game one, How are you feeling coming off of these brief conversations with the players and coach?
I think I'm feeling good. Good to kind of shake off the loss from last season, ready to start a new one. The lads seem like they're happy and confident, so I'm ready for it.
Matt, how about you?
I'm feeling pretty great. I mean, you got this new cocky players coming in. You got Noah Fuson, who may not be having fun anymore, which actually may be the best thing for you going into this year. He may be angry and bitter, and it makes me happy.
Mega Fuson, angry Fuson.
Yeah, that's all you need. Put it on a t-shirt.
Put it on a t-shirt. I need a scowl-faced Fuson and just power levels over 9,000. Yeah, well then, hey, let's get to break and then we'll move on to the final segment of the show.
Yeah. Before we go to break, just a quick reminder to catch these exclusive Noah Fuson and Leia Afonso interviews on the YouTube recording. When we come back, we've got some alumni news as former players find new homes, as well as some transfer rumors and preseason results to discuss here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrikin and Jason Carey.
So, looks like our old friend Mark Ibarra has found a new home in the Western Conference, joining the Las Vegas Lights. How are we feeling about this?
Sad to see him go. Love that he got an opportunity, and it looks like it's a multi-year deal with the Lights. I know the Lights have been kind of a laughingstock team over the last 5-7 years. But then when you look at the most recent footprint, especially under the Batista era and Dennis Sanchez before he moved on to New Mexico United, the team is trying to do something, and I like the rebuild. They went out and got Jeremy Mazzola from Sacramento Republic, who I wanted as our number 2. They've upgraded in a lot of places. I think they got Artiega now on the forward line next to Johnny Rodriguez. This is going to be beneficial for Mark because, a lot of people wanted to see him stay, and I think we would have loved to have him stay. I think Mark would have loved to stay. But again, like we were just talking about with Coach Almeida, it's a congested midfield. There's a lot of depth. And, we talked, I think, at the end when we saw his departure, he's not a one-dimensional player, but he doesn't have the same range and the same skill set necessarily that maybe Hugo and Clay bring at times. And so if the Lights see and they know what they see in Mark Ibarra to go out and get a player of that profile, they've gotten themselves a great number 6, a solid defensive midfielder. And also, too, Devin Rensing, the head coach of the Lights, he's seen Ibarra a lot when he was with the Riverhounds and with Rhode Island FC. I mean, he saw what Mark Ibarra did to his Charleston Battery last year and the year before he moved to the Lights. So he's familiar with Ibarra's game, and he would not go out and get a player of that nature to not have him be a lock-on star. So I think this is a great move for Ibarra, and he no longer has to worry about how he fits in triangle, rotations and midfield depth.
I like this move from the sense that it's Western Conference, so we don't have to see him all the time compared to some of the other moves here to not necessarily strengthen our direct rivals. And then I think it can bring some defensive solidity to them that maybe they kind of got ran through a little bit much without the antics of Rosa Reina last year.
Didn't he keep standing on his 75?
He was in the
goals out.
Yeah. So without them, they would have been crushed. So maybe he can bring some solidity to their midfield because he is a very kind of no nonsense, distributor, recycler of the ball, and can kind of help keep possession and whatnot, So, and then, it's just great to see that he found a spot because you never want to see these guys kind of end their career early. Mark's a great dude, so I'm happy for him.
Absolutely not. And then, we talked about another player or a lack thereof from Media Day. I kind of hinted at in the last segment. Lots of questions around Isaiah Andrada from Velez. We reported it last week on Twitter that there was a rumor that had developed at the end of December that he was going to be a player that was going to have a sell-on package and that he was going to be coming up from Argentina's top flight to play for Rhode Island FC. Then it got announced that he had departed Velez and he was on his way. I did not see him at that first training. And while I hinted at on the tweet that, he's not here, there's no appearance, we'd already found the status of Pitti, who had come up from the same space in the same place at the same time, asked around a little bit more, and there is no Andrada on the way for Rhode Island FC. Now, what I don't know is if there was a deal, I should be really clear that I don't know if there was ever anything actually in the works. So we only have this one soccer reporter / media influencer from that area. I don't know his credibility. I don't know his accuracy on those things. And we can also be honest too that Rhode Island FC is just not being forthcoming with me, right? They can sometimes keep the truth or not tell me things. But when we pressed and we asked multiple sources, there was no indication that this guy was on his way. And by now, at this stage of preseason, he should already be there. So everything tells me that rumor has collapsed. And maybe later I can find out if there was ever any real fire behind it. But for now, it remains smoke and mirrors. But the signs all point that he is not going to be joining the squad here in this 2026 campaign. I don't know how we feel about that. He was supposed to be a right wing back for the team. He looked promising. But, I think maybe Scardina got in the way. If there's truth to it, maybe the Scardina acquisition jumped everything else from a priority standpoint. So hard to say. Matt, from your side of things, would you rather have a promising youth prospect from the top flight in Argentina or a veteran of MLS who has at least half the season starts under his belt? Which one would you rather have?
I think I'd rather have the youth.
Interesting.
And I just go that route because there's more time to develop. And it's a gamble, and I am a gambler, but you don't know what's going to develop, and it could end up being one of, a highly skilled player. And yeah, it could end up being nothing, and it could end up being a waste of time, but at least you can say you tried. You already know what is in the veteran player, you know what to expect, and you have that there. But the youthful player, you could get something phenomenal out of it, and I think it's worth the investment.
Blazer Laser is asking or saying congratulations on the Reddit tier list. I'm not going to put more into that, but if you haven't checked Reddit, thank you, Blazer Laser, for your approval, and thank you for everyone who voted for us apparently on that list. So leave it at that. Jason, I'm going to shift gears here. RFC had its first pre-scrimmage against the New England Revolution 2 this week, losing 5-4 per our TBM reporter and friend Josh Nye at the Musket. You have always prefaced that it's preseason, the points are made up, and the games don't matter.
I love that show.
I want to ask you: should we be worried? What's your take on it from a reaction standpoint of a 5-4 scoreline?
I mean, my initial reaction was disappointment to see us lose to a MLS Next Pro squad, which is a division below us. But then immediately was like, well, it's preseason, and like, who did we play? And like, from Josh and I saw some reports of who the Revs fielded, but we didn't really get any information on who RFC was playing. So in that regards, I don't know if what coach was doing, right? Was he trying some new tactics right off the bat? Was he maybe playing a lot of rotational players? There's a lot of, variables that I don't know. So I'm just not going to read into it. I think I'll wait until we get the full picture of, hopefully we can get the results of the other matches and then kind of take an aggregate of that and see, did we perform in at least most of them? That being said, we did score 4 goals though. So sure, it's a lower division opponent, but it's nice to see us at least scoring goals. Like I'd almost, if every game last year was 5-4, I would have simultaneously hated that, but always been entertained.
If 50% of them went our way, I mean, we'd still be in a playoff contention, right? You can't complain about that. Matt, to Jason's point, we score 4, but we let in 5 again against a quote unquote lower tiered team. Again, not that this is a real game, and there's some talking points we can unpack here, but if Jason's on cloud 9 from scoring 4 goals, should we be on cloud -9 for letting 5 in?
Look, I wouldn't say we should be on either of those clouds. Maybe cloud 1 would be the place to be, I guess. I don't even know how you could get on a cloud. It's a lot of water vapor. But no, look, I don't really think there's too much to read into with the preseason game, and I really don't buy into anything when it comes to the preseason. And look, I know this is a different sport, but in 2017, the Cleveland Browns went 4-0 in the preseason. They went 0-16 for the rest of the year. So no matter what the sport is,
if it's preseason, brown, flush it down. That's all I'm going to say.
Bring him to the Super Bowl. But again, I'm not going to buy into the preseason. I mean, look, it's a 5-4 loss in this sort of environment. Look, I just want to see what it comes to when it's actual meaningful games. You're getting guys that are trialists and may not even be playing, and there's a lot to take into it. But they're getting their feet wet.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I agree with that to a certain extent. I think there are some caveats you can pull, some threads here. One, allegedly, and this is per Caleb
Allegedly.
Pongratz, because I haven't been able to get this anywhere else, so I don't know how Caleb got this information, but allegedly Amos Shapiro-Thompson, Noah Fuson, JJ Williams, and a trialist were our goal scorers. So in one aspect, it's good to see Fuson and Williams be on the score sheet, because again, getting them the reps, getting them the feeling of scoring a goal, having that hunger ready to go for game time is important. And I say trialist, by the way. Again, I said this earlier during the media part. As far as I've been told, everyone that's there that's not a part of the squad, they're not trialists. They're just there to complete a training squad for the team to scrimmage against and practice with. So, giving them the ability to then to play against, if these are college guys fresh out of college, still in college, this is about the equivalent level for them. So getting them some reps against the Revs too, that's not a bad thing. It allows coach again to work on tactics, maybe have some players change positions around the pitch. What we do know, though, is, going back to the 5 goals allowed, one, I want to be really clear, 2 of those goals that were let in, those were in the last 10 minutes of the match. And notoriously, a lot of teams will see the rotation be like the secondary team, right? You bring your starters out for 45, 60 minutes, you bring the next group out for 45, 60 minutes. And so normally you'll see, I don't want to say lesser, but the other players play in that second half. So allowing 2 goals late in doesn't necessarily tell me a lot. When I saw the video that someone posted of the Revs 2 goal from like closer to half line than the box, it looked like it was some of the trialist defenders. And I remember one of their names. It's the kid from, I think, Providence, but it doesn't mean anything to that regard. Now, what we do know for sure is that Koke Vegas was not at the game. So I don't want to raise any alarms. I don't want to, ring any fire bells here, but why he wasn't at the game? Maybe he had a dentist appointment. I didn't see him injured the week before. I don't want to even go to that level. There could have been a myriad of different reasons why. There's a ton of keepers in that training camp right now that are beyond Will Meyer, Jacob Castro, and Koke Vegas. I don't even know who didn't get the save on the net. It looked like Jacob, but I couldn't quite tell. Don't want to read too much deeper into that, but also if you don't have Koke Vegas, I
mean, that explains why there maybe was so many goals.
If that was Jacob Castro's first appearance with Rhode Island FC, and he was an MLS Next Pro player just 5 minutes before he signed with Rhode Island FC. So I'm not really worried there. Not going to jump to conclusions again, but like you said, Jason, we scored 4 goals. That's a good sign. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter. Now, I will say, and end this kind of on, reminders for the schedule ahead from a preseason perspective. We do have a couple of things going on here. One, first and foremost, after this New England Revolution 2 game, the team will be heading down to Florida this weekend to head to the IMG Academy, where they'll take on Sporting Club Jacksonville next week, alongside Sarasota Paradise, who have had they've had matches now against the New England Revolution senior squad and the New York Red Bulls. They got burned by the Revolution, but then they put the hurt on the Red Bulls. So this should be a pretty good competitive team. And remember that coach himself said that he really enjoys playing against championship level squads. It felt like that might have been a little bit more intentional as they've shifted away from the Orlando City groups or some of the USL 1 competition. So they'll see Philadelphia Union at the next pro level, Hartford Athletic and Brooklyn FC. Hartford Athletic and Brooklyn will be when they get back here in New England. So exciting times ahead. Matt, the show's been long, and so thank you for breaking our perfect record of actually being able to run shows on time. So completely blame you on this. You're never welcome back ever again. I'm just kidding. It's always a blast to have you on. I can't wait to see you on F-Bomb Friday next week, and with Jason in tow, we are going to F that place up, if you know what I mean. And then I just can't wait to have many more shows with you. And I'm really enjoying this partnership we have with 990 WBOB so far. So I want to leave the floor to you, my friend, and ask, where can fans find you, the work that you do, and everything else in your space?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Well, for first, yes, 990 WBOB. You can find me. I do host the Playbook on that station Mondays and Wednesdays, 6 to 7 p.m. We talk all things local sports, from Rhode Island FC and soccer season to the Patriots on the Super Bowl run, college sports, everything you can think of. We do discuss it. We got other programming as well I'm involved in, including Big Man Off Campus, which I co-host with Tom Harkness at 7 on Mondays, and the Bryant Bulldog Sports Hour, which is a lot of Burn Stadium news back at the old home. They're on at 8 on Mondays. I co-host that as well. But
Are
can
you
find me
going to do a Revolution 2 show now that, speaking of Burn Stadium?
Hey, we should get that rolling. I love that idea. Let's do it. But you can find me on all of those there. And as well, you did mention it. We will have F-Bomb Friday in 8 days, which is going to be a momentous day. And for anyone listening that hasn't tuned in earlier, that's tuning in now, maybe you fast forward for whatever reason, go check it out. F-Bomb Friday, February 6th. It will be on 990wbob.com, 6 to 10 p.m. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah, and I think we go on at 7 if you want to just follow for our beautiful faces.
I'll say it really quick so people know where you can specifically find these guys. On that show at 7 o'clock to 7:30, my team, which includes these two, will be on from that time slot, as well as 8:30 to 9. And there'll be trivia sprinkled out throughout the show is what we're doing. We're all going to have a good time with that. I mean, I'll be screwed up for most of the show, so have you fun with that. But again, if you want to tell Matt and Jason how you really feel about them and use that special word that rhymes with luck and truck, call in February 6th on F-Bomb Friday on 990wbob.com.
And we will have all the links if you want to donate and can attend the show. Hoping we don't normally ask you guys for much. We certainly don't ask for your money normally, but this is for a good cause. So would appreciate from the fandom anyone that can support if they're able to.
Well, it's been a great time as always, Matt. Thank you for joining us. And we'll catch all the rest of y'all next time. Anchors up.
Anchors up.
In the meantime, make sure to check out our friends at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RIFC news at theblazingmusket.com. You can follow us on Twitter, Threads, TikTok, and Blue Sky at RIFC Podcast. Our Instagram handle is at Raising Anchor, and you can always check out our website, raisinganchorpodcast.com. Anchors up.